Hey guys, Danny Johnson here, and I had a fantastic time towing with my 2015 Yukon Denali, so I wanted to give you a review and kind of talk about how everything went and how the vehicle performed. This has the 6.2 liter V8 with 420 horsepower and 460 pound-feet of torque. And that is a significant difference that does make a difference. You're looking at 65 horsepower more than the standard Yukon and 77 more pound-feet of torque as well. And I was really excited to see how this would do on a long trip with a heavy load. And overall, we did over 800 miles on the trip, so 836 miles and averaged over 14 miles per gallon. So I think it did fantastic, and I'm going to give you a review and show you how the mileage went. We pulled Baker grade and some serious hills, so it did really well. We were also using the WaySafe tow hitch receiver system that has the built-in tongue scale, and so I have a review video on this, an install video that I can put in the video description, but just wanted to show that this did a fantastic job. It was overrated for the vehicle. It could do 1,500 pounds tongue weight and 12,500 pounds of trailer weight, so a much better system than what I had before. I was very glad that I had it. It has the built-in tongue scale, and so you'll see a little bit of that in the video as well. But anyway, first of all, for the Yukon itself, it comes with a really nice tow package from the factory. So this is the V5 and package. So this hitch system is rated for 1,000 pounds tongue weight and 10,000 pounds total trailer weight. So it's even a little bit more than what the vehicle is rated for towing safely. The vehicle was rated at 8,500 pounds. Now, I've also made a video on gross vehicle weight ratings, tongue weight, payload, so please check the video description for that one. It's really important to watch. So with all of our equipment ready to go, the vehicle that we're towing is a 2003 Ford Mustang SVT Cobra, and so it weighs just under 4,000 pounds, and the Yukon weighed just under 6,000 pounds, probably a little bit over 6,000 pounds with the occupants and the gear. So anyway, we went to get the trailer, and one of the first impressions with the Denali, something I really like, is the airbag system that you can hear would keep it level. Thank you. And as you saw, the Denali has a 8,500 pound capacity. The trailer was 2,200 pounds. The car was just under 4,000, so you're over 6,000 pounds. It was very comfortable for the Yukon to do it. And if you look at how these trailers are set up, a lot of the weight's in the very, very front with the engine and everything pretty close. When we put the trailer on here, we saw that our tongue weight was 700 pounds. And so some quick math here. If the car itself was 3,800 pounds and the trailer was 2,200 pounds, then we were about 6,000 pounds. So we were looking at about 12% of tongue weight there. You want to be about 10 to 15% to have it evenly balanced. And our truck was 6,000 pounds. The trailer was 6,000, so we were at 12,000 pounds gross, which was under the 14,000 pounds that the vehicle was rated for. Throw in the occupants and the gear, and we were still pretty safe to do everything that we were doing, and it was pretty well balanced. Among some of the first things that I was judging the Yukon on was whether it was going to lose speed on a hill, how level the trailer was, and how well it towed in general. I was also very interested to see how well the car would do, if it would overheat or not. There were some pretty steep grades that we were going to do, and also fuel economy, of course. And so, of course, we had the vehicle in tow haul mode, which is really nice because it swaps in the transmission temperature. And so just to activate tow haul, if you haven't done it before, you push the button at the end of the shift selector. And so that transmission temperature gauge comes in, and then you'll see the logo for the trailer. And this is changing shift points. It's changing different temperature parameters for cooling fans to come on, and it's also doing the automatic downgrade brake shifting. So when you hit hills, it will automatically downshift and keep your speed a lot better so you're not heating up your brakes on hills. And the tire PSI is recommended for 35 pounds. So what we did was we actually overinflated the tires slightly just to get everything set up. And once the trailer and everything was loaded, then we went and saw that the tire PSI had risen slightly after getting the tires warm as well. And so we dropped it back down to where it should be, into that 35 range. Now, something I want to bring up that's maybe overlooked on newer vehicles is this is an 8-speed automatic. They even have a 10-speed now. But what I wanted to show was the incremental changes of downshifting in each gear. With my older Silverado 4-speed automatic, basically, if it was too much for one gear, the vehicle was slowing down and it was going to downshift, it's making a huge leap down to the other gear because there's only 4. But with these 8 speeds, there's 8 different gears. You know, that's so many close ratio gears that the drop on each of these isn't as significant. So it drops you down to a little bit more horsepower. You're a little higher in the RPM band, but not all the way to where you're always downshifting to the red line. So as an example, here we are in 8th gear. We drop down to 7th at just over 2,000 RPM. 6th gear, still under 3,000 RPM. 5th gear, a little bit lower. And even 4th gear now, that's where we start to get into the higher RPMs. But you have all those options because you have 8 gears to choose from. So the transmission itself was a very nice feature, having multiple gears so that you can downshift incrementally. If it wasn't quite enough power, then you'd have little bumps to get to more power. It wasn't like it was downshifting all the way to 5,000 RPM every time that you needed to pull a hill. And again, newer vehicles even have 10 speeds. I did notice that the vehicle was still going into its 4-cylinder mode when we were flat on the highway, and that was saving quite a bit of fuel. And so for our first leg of the journey, everything went really well. We had some pretty steep hills, and the vehicle did not lose speed. I was going about 75 miles an hour up some of the hills, and it pulled it beautifully. At one time, it did downshift to where it was near the 5,000 RPM mark. But the vehicle was super stable and very powerful, plenty of pedal left in it to even accelerate more. With this, we were, as you can see, averaging 13 miles per gallon, and that was with running it pretty darn hard. So on the way back, I'll give you some more information on more flatland mileage and then hills, but just wanted to scroll through this to kind of show you what the vehicle had done. So the vehicle, again, sits very level with those airbags self-inflating, so that was a really nice touch. And my overall impression was just how well GM had done this. I mean, this is a full truck. It's built for towing, and when you have all the equipment that you need, it's just such a nice feeling. The truck also did have an electronic trailer brake controller. However, the trailer we had was hydraulic, so it wasn't being used. But if the trailer that you have does have the electronic braking system, then this is a fantastic option. So please see my video. And once you're at 75% trailer weight to vehicle weight, you really must have those trailer brakes, or it's just too much for the factory brakes to handle. And as you can see here, just with the car and trailer, we were at 100% or maybe even heavier for the trailer compared to the vehicle weight. So definitely something good to have. Make sure that you check that video out. So something I was watching was the engine coolant temperature as well as the transmission temperature. And so for the good majority of the trip, they were both under 200. So engine temperature well below 210 and transmission below 200. And it would get a little bit hotter, especially on the way back where we pulled the Baker grade, which was like a 10-mile stretch. So I'll show you some of that footage and how it did incrementally. But all in all, the Denali did an awesome job towing. I was very happy with it, and it was very comfortable, air conditioning the whole time. I really couldn't have asked for more. It did very well. So for our return trip, I reset the odometer and I was going to see exactly how the mileage went coming from the racetrack back. And so this stretch of road is going to be from Roseman, California to Jean, Nevada. And so it's pretty flat in the beginning, and then you hit some hills towards the end. So during the flatland part of it, and you'll see pictures on the map here of where we were at the time, the very first part was flat and level. We were getting 16 miles per gallon, doing really well with that, just kind of cruising along. And so Then as we got towards Baker, that's where the Baker grade is. That's where cars are usually overheating on the side of the road. And we steamed along right through there, still around 16 miles per gallon. And keep in mind, we had the air conditioning on and just cruising as if nothing had ever happened. So I started watching the temperatures on this as we started to hit some of the grades, and it creeped up to the 200 mark as we started to feel a little bit of the incline, but you could see the incline coming up, the big, long Baker grade, and it's the length and everything that really makes it tough. Is a steep grade for quite a while. So as we got to that grade, temperatures started to rise slightly, still 210 for the engine, which was pretty normal, just over 200 for the transmission. And then now this is where we're starting to hit the really steep part of the grade. And so for that, the vehicle did awesome. It kept its speed. It didn't lose any. We started to go a little higher on the transmission temperature, about the first click or so after the 200 mark. And so then as we got towards the top of the hill, you could see both the transmission was still doing a little bit warmer, but fantastic. So I was really happy. It was 95 degrees out. So this is on a hot day. And just steaming along full speed, not losing any speed, full air conditioning. So you can see we were close to 3,000 RPM pulling the grade, and so definitely the load was there. You could feel it, but the truck was still doing fantastic. I was completely pleased with how well it was pulling. So then we got more towards the very top, where it got real steep, and there was between the two grades there was a little bit of a leveling off, and then another steep hill that was a little bit shorter of a hill. And once you get to the top, you want to be very careful, because then the downhill is very fast. And so as you can see here, we were down to 14 miles per gallon, so we had lost our 2 miles per gallon average, and with 160 miles or so, that can affect it. It could really hold that mileage pretty well on an average. So you also gain a lot of that back coming down the back side of the hill. But as we were pulling towards the top, you could see the mileage coming down. Now we were down to 14 miles per gallon even, and one more hill to pull. And so with these hills, it's kind of brutal, just one after the other, some very long and stretched out, some of them steep and heavy, and a lot of other vehicles are going to slow down as well on the side. So yeah, it's hard because you don't want to lose your momentum, so you want to stay in the fast lane, but you don't want to get caught behind a semi-truck or anything doing 25 miles per hour. But anyway, so we hit these last two grades that were pretty darn steep, and again, we didn't lose any speed. Everything was going well. The truck was just humming around in a beautiful sound, by the way. The V8 in the 6.2 liter V8 is beautiful sound as it's just humming up the hill, keeping everybody comfortable. And it really just did a great job. So our fuel mileage, of course, continued to drop slightly as we're pulling these big grades. And so you want to make sure that you have fuel before starting. And there was a traffic accident later on, so you don't want to sit there and be really low on fuel. But anyway, we got to the very top here, and it just did a great job. We saw the light at the end of the tunnel. It had pulled all the hills just fine. We maintained our speed. We kept the air conditioning on. And there's there's things that the vehicle could do and some things you don't want to make it do. And, I could have even been gaining speed if I had my foot down. But I had it on cruise control to see how it would do, how it would downshift on its own, and kind of leave it like that. And it did a really good job on the automatic downgrade shifting. A little bit later, I did manual shift and get some runs on some hills later. But for this leg of the trip, I wanted to see how it would do cruise control on. And so here's the results. So we were 14 miles per gallon for the full trip. And then for this leg, 195 miles and 14.4 miles per gallon. So that, to me, is outstanding, towing a trailer that weighs even more than the vehicle. So when it's all said and done, this is a fantastic vehicle. If you are thinking about getting a Yukon, I'm going to recommend it fully. And, I'm a Ford guy. I have Ford Mustangs, but I also like the GM brand for trucks. I think they do an outstanding job. And again, this was the Denali. I got the Denali for a reason, the 6.2 liter V8. I wanted that 420 horsepower, 460 pound-feet of torque. And this is where it really paid off.